Hi, it's Nicole. I read an interesting essay by C.S. Lewis recently called A Note on Jane Austen. The essay starts by putting 4 passages from Jane Austen's novels together. The first one, Catherine Morland discovered General Tilney was not a monster and was not a murderer, and she realized she has been a completely embarrassing fool. And the second one, Marianne Dashwood realized she has been completely self-absorbed and her own behaviors were self-destructing. Lizzie Bennet reflected on Mr. Darcy and Wickham and realized she was completely blind in her judgment. Emma Woodhouse realized she misunderstood the situation completely and misguided the poor Harriet. And C.S. Lewis said, if you put them on a line between comedy and tragedy, Catherine Morland is at the comedy end, and Marianne Dashwood is near the tragedy end, and Lizzie Bennet and Emma Woodhouse is somewhere in the middle. And they all have something in common, the process of awakening or undeception. All 4 heroines discover that they have been making mistakes, both about themselves and about the world in which they live. All realize that the cause of the deception lay within. There are self-hatred and self-contempt. This common theme of undeception stands out as important because Jane Austen only published 6 novels, and 4 out of these 6 novels have this undeception theme at the pivotal moment of the stories. This is the common pattern of these 4 novels. These moments of undeception or awakening shows us the firmness of Jane Austen's thought. There are many moral words. The great abstract nouns of the classical English moralists are unblushingly and uncompromisingly used. Good sense, courage, contentment, fortitude, some duty neglected, some failing indulged, impropriety, indelicacy, general candour, blamable distrust, just humiliation, vanity, folly, ignorance, reason. All is hard, clear, definable, by some modern standards, even naively so. These benchmarks are how Austen measures the world and oneself. 2 novels remain. The heroines of Mansfield Park and Persuasion experience no self-deception, therefore no process of undeception or awakening. So Mansfield Park and Persuasion, their common pattern is the solitary heroines. The heroines in the first 4 novels, they have friends and families among whom their existence matters. But Anne Elliot and Fanny Price, they don't matter much to the people they live with. They are lowly and alone, physically and socially. C.S. Lewis compares them to Shakespeare's dark comedies. C.S. Lewis believes Austen gives full approval of Anne and Catherine. They are the observers of their world. The self-deception happens in the world, happens in other characters. They see it and disapprove. Between Anne and Catherine, Catherine is less successful. People think her a self-righteous moralist, but if you think about it, she's not. She judges people with the same standard as Lizzie Bennet, not higher. So why is she less successful? C.S. Lewis suggests 2 reasons. Catherine is too ordinary and insignificant. There's nothing that attracts us to her. Contrast her to Anne. Anne is attractive with her intelligence, with her character, her action, and her perseverance. Catherine only has morals. And the second reason, Fanny's love for Edward is almost a fangirl's love, and Lewis judges Edward to be the least attractive of all Austen's heroes, and Captain Wentworth almost the best. He says, in real life, no doubt, we continue to respect interesting women, despite the preposterous men they sometimes marry. But in fiction, it is usually fatal. Who can forgive Dorothea for marrying such a sugar stick as Ladislaw? Both Fanny and Anne are observers. Fanny sometimes thinks it fun to watch people messing around and making a fool of themselves, but Anne's watchfulness is almost always painful. And Lewis points out the real reason for Anne and Fanny passing judgments as spectators is that they have delicacy which must be pained by various things they hear or see. Lewis compares this to a musician's involuntary shudder at a false note. So last thing, how does Austen achieve her comedies? By being serious when it needs to be so that the irony shows through. And how does Austen stay away from being too serious? Lewis suggests that she sees few great sacrifices and takes pleasure in small things. Right, so that's a summary of Lewis' essay, A Note on Jane Austen. I did it almost for my own benefit. I read the essay and I know in a few weeks' time, a few months' time, a few years' time, I will completely forget what I've read. And I think it's a very interesting essay, so I'd like to be able to remember it. And there are some interesting points that Lewis makes about, for example, if Charlotte Bronte wrote a story with Fanny Price as the main character, what it would be like. And that was a very interesting thought experiment, I'd say. So recommend if you're interested in C.S. Lewis or his literary criticism on Jane Austen. This would be an interesting one to read. And that's all for today, I'd say. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one.